I was born in the parish of Westmoreland,
Okay.
and I migrated to Kingston when I was like 13.
Okay.
I I didn't really say migrate. I ran away from my father
Okay.
because of abuse.
Okay.
So I really couldn't take it anymore, and I have to run away because
Do you mind telling us how old you were?
I was like 13. I think there was one time he tied me on a tree
Yes.
and he beat me.
Okay.
So till I cried that no tears couldn't come to my eyes.
So it was for such a long time.
Right.
Okay.
And he beat me all in my head.
What did he use? Did he
He
use any
used
objects or
like
sticks or belts? Or?
the water hose.
Yeah, right. Right.
He cut the water hose
Mm-hmm.
and he have it to the length where he know he can really
Hurt you.
right.
Okay.
There are bruises on my skin, and he tied me on a tree. He tied me around the tree like this, so I
Okay.
couldn't move.
Right. Right.
So he have me where he could beat me. And
Was there a reason for this?
if I used to carry water on my head
Mm-hmm.
because I have to go to the river and carry a big pan of water on my head. And if I stay too long,
Mm-hmm.
when I came back, he
Mhm.
beat me. You see, I didn't have a good childhood days. My childhood
Okay.
days was very, very rough.
Did you have any other kind of trauma? Was there any sexual abuse?
Yes.
And who was this by?
By his friends. His
Okay.
friends.
But there was no abuse by your dad or some.
No.
Okay, no. But his friends sexually abused you.
Yes.
And what age did that start?
Maybe about 10 because I was big in body.
Okay.
So like 10, I look maybe older than 10.
So you looked like a woman.
Yeah.
So, and did you tell your father about this?
No, because I was scared.
Okay. So if you weren't scared, you would have been able
Yeah,
to tell him.
because my father is a very ignorant person.
Right.
Yeah, and even when I was like 6, I couldn't forget about it. I was going to the river with my stepsister,
Mm-hmm.
and she forgot something and she sent me back.
Right.
And there was this big man who hold me by the way,
Mm-hmm.
and you know he was not. I don't know how to put it.
It's okay. Just use your words. It's okay.
It's like he would rape, but not really.
And this happened with other men also.
Yeah.
Many of his friends.
Not many, about like 2 of them.
Okay.
I think it was like 2 of them because he didn't want me to have friends.
Okay. He didn't want you to have
No, my
friends.
father didn't want me to have friends.
And what was the reason?
I don't know. He's just like a person who stay by himself.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't have any friends. So he doesn't want me to have friends, you know. But they always wait until they know that my father is not there. Then they will
Come
come.
to you.
Yeah.
Right. And what did
I would
you?
cry, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's nothing. I cry, but
You
I wouldn't
tried
say
to
that.
resist, and you tried to fight him off, or what?
Yeah, and I tell them to stop, but
Mhm.
they wouldn't listen.
Right.
So, and I would sit down and I cried. I used to cry a lot.
Yeah.
I
As a
used to-
child, you were
yes,
crying.
I used to cry a lot because I was so hurt.
It's okay.
I used to be so hurt that I used to sit down and cry by myself.
Yeah.
And I used to have this 2 song that I used to sing.
What was the song?
One of the song, I had no mother
Mm-hmm.
and I had no father.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a poor little sailor girl just ready to die.
That was the song.
Yes. And I used to sing those songs by myself. And it's like I had no one to talk to about what I'm going through.
So how did you find strength through this?
I think maybe I was a very strong
Child?
because wanted to know that you wanted to live with your mom,
Right.
and even when you go where your mother is,
Mm-hmm.
she turned her back on you.
Right.
She refused you.
Right.
You cried, but after a while you become strong.
Mm-hmm.
There was one night I was sleeping. I had one of my finger that's swelling and it was paining me. And she put something on it and she burned my finger. And in the night, I felt when somebody hold on to the finger. And when the person hold on, and when I was gonna scream, it was our nephew, and him said, "Shh." So I couldn't say nothing because the finger was swollen, paining me,
Yeah.
and he hold to the finger, and he raped me that time, that night.
Wow.
But there was a war in 1976, right back until 1980. That's what separated me
Okay.
and her.
So I was born in Kingston, Jamaica, and I was growing up as a child. I can remember that I didn't have my mom. My dad was always there, and I had my uncles, which one of my uncles I never used to see. Um, I saw my younger uncle, and my dad was never really around too much. You know, I can remember it was times when it seems like my dad will never come home for months. But I knew my dad used to work in a Gleaner company.
And how old
And
were you at that point? This
I,
point, what would you say?
I was around, say, 5. The other next door neighbor that I had, she was a little older than me. She was much more in age. So my dad used to tell her to like give her eye on me, and I think she had like one child,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, I had one experience with her when she was watching me one day, and she came into the room, and they used to like to in Jamaica they play house a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and she told me we were playing house, and she lay me doctor, and she lay me on the bed, and she lifted up my clothes, and she pulled my underwear down, and she pulled hers down, and she was on top of me, and I was broken from then, and
So that was your first experience?
that was my first experience with this young lady.
Right.
And I kept it to myself, and as time progressed, my dad had 2 friends that live inside the yard. After it was like a 2 bedroom with living room, and kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
and we were always in the front room and someone in the middle, and the third room was like away from it was like on the side,
Right.
you know. So, and then we had a porch. We call it a veranda.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
So, these 2 guys was always there, and one of them, one night, grabbed me and put his privacy between my leg, and he pulled my clothes down, and he pulled his privacy between my leg, and he came on my between my leg, and that was my second experience. And
How old were you then?
I was still around the age.
Okay.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
I told my dad about that incident, and he didn't respond to it. He said that if I didn't put myself in the way, that would have never happened.
Okay.
Um, so now I keep everything to myself because
So how
my
did
dad,
that make you feel once he said that?
it was really devastating because you knew this is your father and he's supposed to have some protection towards you, but there was none. I felt betrayed,
Okay.
and I started to develop like a little hatred
Okay.
in me because being left alone is one,
Right.
and then being abused is another,
Right.
and then your father who's supposed to be there for you is still not there, and you're not getting any reaction from him when these things are happening. Walking down by my gate, I felt someone as I was climbing up, because there was like a step, and I was climbing up on the step. I felt someone grab me, and the nervousness, I knew what was going to happen, and I couldn't stop it, and I had no one there, and I couldn't scream, and because no one would hear me, and there was no one to protect me.
Right.
So he lay in the yard. It's there was gravel. It's like stones
Right.
on the ground, and he lay me on the ground, and he penetrated me, and I cried, and I cried, and I cried, and he left after he was finished with me. And then
How
I
old were you
sat
then?
there. I was about 8, maybe 8 now.
And did you know who this was?
Yes,
Okay.
because I've heard his name, I've seen him,
Okay.
because others have
Described him.
described him, and they wanted to catch him,
Okay.
because he was messing with young girls, kids,
Right.
and I sat there when he left. I just sat right there. I wanted to go back around to my neighbor, but I just sat there, and after a while I got up and I went inside. I didn't even bathe or anything, because we had a standpipe.
Right.
There was a shower, but there was also a standpipe that I used to bathe in, because I couldn't reach the shower thing. It was too tall for me, so I used to bathe at the standpipe. And I sat inside, curled up. The next day I saw my dad. I mentioned to him that Gennari, that's his name, had raped me. My dad did take me to the doctor, but that was it. It was nothing that came out of it. It was just like nothing happened. So that was more hatred.
So what did you want from your dad? What would have been something
Comfort.
Comfort.
Comfort. Say something. Say you're gonna look for this man who did this, but nothing. My dad just kept going. Like, my dad was very cold.
Okay.
He was such a cold-hearted man. He didn't care about anything but himself and his food, and that's how I could describe him. Food was his best thing,
Right.
And as time progressed, now he started to leave like different women. I would see this woman come, and she would watch me for a while. He would beat this one, and she would leave, and the next one will come. So as time go by, I have all these women coming this day, that day, to watch me.
Just being in the presence of that.
Yes.
Okay.
And to know that he's fighting this woman, and it makes me very angry and very, wanted to be aggressive to him. So I remember the next day they were at it again, and he used a knife and burst her hand open.
He cut her open.
He cut
yeah.
her hand open,
Okay.
and she left.
She left. Okay.
And I never saw her again. And all these things that I see my dad do to people and me, it makes me distance. I dreamt at one point that I was stabbing my dad. That's how bad I had rage for him, and he knew that I didn't like him, and I think he didn't like me either, because the way he would treat me. And I used to say I said, you can't be my dad. To treat a human being this way, you cannot be. There was no doubt in my mind that my dad ever. I didn't think he cared at all.
Okay.
He never showed sympathy for anything. He always wanted abuse. My brother, one of my brother had came and lived with me. This is another stepmother he had a kid with.
Right.
and she was staying with us too, and he beat her and she left.
Okay.
And the son was staying with us, but he used to steal, and he would leave at times and he would come back. And I remember the day when my dad told him, when he tried to sleep with me the first time, and it didn't happen. um the second time it did, and then he told me, my dad said, I must catch my practice on you. So I knew that there was no way that my father could really care about me and tell my brother to sleep with me, you know? And he would, at times my dad used to come home and he used to say to my brother, he used to tell my brother to watch me, and if I give any kind of trouble, and sometimes he will lie. And my dad used to get a extension cord, but it was really, really heavy extension cord. And he would have my brother pull my pants down, and there was a table, and it was like an iron table. And my dad would have my brother beat me with that cord. Oh, he used to whip me, and my dad would sit there and watch him whip me. And then when my brother does something, he will have me use the same extension cord and whip my brother. And I remember one day he whipped me so bad I could not walk. My butt was so swollen I could not move. And he had me beat my brother. He beat my brother one day, and the raw wire, out of the extension cord went into the back of my brother's back. And he had to lift it up with a knife. My God, sometimes he would hit me, and my arms just constantly punching me in one arm, and it would swell up so bad. But he was very abusive. I got the most beaten. He hurt me the most because all my other brothers and sisters did not go through what I went through. And that's why I always say that my dad never cared about me. And I always think that I was not his child. One day, my dad thought, well, if I was raped, why would you think I was a virgin? I was already raped and abused, so you don't expect me to be a virgin. So him and my stepmother decided to play gynecologist. So they had me in the back room, and they had me pull my underwear down and spread my legs, and my stepmother was sitting there while my dad stick his finger in my private. And
What was the purpose of that?
to see if I was a virgin.
Okay.
I took that, and one night again, he came in, and he was drunk, and he stuck his tongue in my mouth. By this, I wasn't going to take that anymore. The next morning, I went to the army, captain of the army, and I reported it. But I was staying with my aunt because I couldn't stay with my mom because she worked. But what I would do is I would sleep at my aunt, and then she lived around the lane,
All right.
and then like a little distance from my mother. So I would sleep at my aunt, wake up in the morning, and go around to my mom to get my brother off to school. So I was doing the same thing I was doing before. So I was running around, not going to school, no education, no nothing, because So one night I was there and I was at my aunt and sleeping, and I felt somebody touching me, just going up my clothes, and oh my goodness, and I looked and it was my cousin.
Oh, okay.
And the next morning I spoke to my aunt about it, and I said, Steve, he was touching me, and she said, I'm lying, and it was such a big thing. She brought it out in the neighborhood, and I'm a wicked person, and why would I do that? And I'm this, and it was just so much, and I hated them now because nobody believes anything, and that's the thing I don't like. When you try to tell someone something, a child, the first thing you're quick to say is that it's a lie. You never really investigate.
Right.
You're just quick to say it's a lie, because it's your child, and my aunt was, and she told my mom and that I was a liar, and up until this day I don't think she believed that her, and she said she asked him, and I don't remember what was the answer, but I didn't want to be anywhere near these people. I just wanted to get away from all of them, and but there was no escape, and I stayed at my mom. I never go back around my aunt. She never spoke to me, and that's another thing. When you're a child, the adults like to malice. I noticed that a lot. They're malice kids. You're a kid, But anyway, I met this guy, and
What do you mean by malice kids?
like not speak to a child,
Alright.
because a child does something, and this is how you reprimand them, by you disgrace them, and then you don't speak to them. You will see the child and you will walk past the
I
child,
see.
and it's
Okay.
a child.
You ignore the child.
Yeah,
basically.
you ignore the child. So I met this guy, and he was living around in the same yard as my mom.
Okay.
But when my mom wasn't there, he showed me kindness and comfort, and I was just looking for somebody to just be themselves and to just hold me and let me see what love is really about. One day, he asked me to come to his home. He told me where to come, and I went. And he met me on the outside. And I went when I was there, he tied me to the bed, and oh my goodness, and I was in so much pain. This guy it was just traumatizing then, but in spite of that, I said he cared because of all the affection he was showing me otherwise. Like, he would bring me food, and he would make sure that I'm okay, and and it's like he missed me, and it was something different, and so I told his sister that I had liked him and stuff like that, and she went and told, I didn't know he has a baby mother.
Right.
And then she told his baby mother, and oh boy, the whole town had to know about this, and it was just all over the place, and I'm fast, and I'm this, and then the words again, and I need to go back to my dad, and I left.
Mhm.
I left there, and I did go back to my dad, and I begged my dad to come back. And I was there for a while. He would try to every time he'll come in, I remember he used to beat me and said that even if you don't give any trouble, I'm tapping you for today. Stuff like that.
For what reason?
Just doing it.
Okay.
I had a half brother that was living with me, and he tortured that kid because he was somebody else's child. My dad told her that I lied on him about sticking his hand in my private, and about the tongue thing. So they figure I was devious for doing stuff like that. I
You
was
were a troublemaker. Yeah.
troublemaker. So now they said to me that my younger uncle had to keep me. I came here when I was 15, 1989. I was gonna turn August. I came here August '89. I was gonna turn 16. Um, August that August, and so I was staying with my younger uncle, and thinking that everything is okay now with my younger uncle. And one day I was there, and it was night, and I was in the living room, and he came and sat in the living room, and we was talking for a minute, and then I decided that I was gonna go to sleep, while he was still watching TV, and my uncle came right on top of me, holding me down, and said, "Don't scream." He said that, "You look so good. I can't believe you're growing up," and stuck his private into me, and tell me if I ever talk that he was gonna kill me. So by this, the next day, I was held hostage because I couldn't go outside the door. I couldn't go nowhere. I had to stay quiet. I was sitting in the house crying. Like, when would it end? When would all these things stop? I can't believe I'm here and I'm going through this again. And when my cousin opened the door for her mom, I flew through the door and I ran up the hill. One day I don't know, it was just something with this family incest business. I don't
They say
understand.
they say it
It's-
runs in the
it
family.
just everywhere you go, it was just
Right.
and he wanted to sleep with me, and I said, I'm tired of y'all,
Right.
and I was sitting in there on the floor. It was winter, and I was sitting on the floor, and I could hear her because her dad lived on the first floor. I could hear them, and he was like, "I told you I didn't like her. I told you that she was the devil's child." And I sat in that mail room on the floor. It was cold, and everybody walked past. They come and collect their mail, and I'm saying to myself, "My God," I said, "Why me? Why? What did I do to deserve all this stuff that I am going through?" It was just so much. And that I sat there. I was still skeptical of everybody. I just didn't want to trust. Didn't have feelings towards anyone. Got my clothes, whatever I had, and I went straight to that social service building, and I sat there. I said, "I need to see," I forgot his name, but I need to see him. And when he came, I said, "I need you to find me somewhere to live." He found me somewhere. They found me a place with 22 girls in the Bronx. And that's where I was living till I was not even 21. I lived there till I was about 19, maybe.
So about
Yeah.
3 years or 2 years?
Yeah, about maybe 2 years, 2.5 years.
Okay.
It was a lot of drama there. I stayed there. Then I met this guy, and looking for at that age, I was like, yeah, I was 16, because it was still around that time. And I met this guy, and I thought the guy liked me, and just looking for love and comfort, and you're not thinking,
Right.
and while I was in the group home, and I got pregnant. I didn't know I was pregnant, and then I went to him and I was like, "I'm pregnant," and he said to me, "I don't want no babies," and they took me to have an abortion. And then I was in the group home still. I was going through a lot. I was fighting a lot. I remember I almost got arrested because I I beat one girl so bad till she had a fever, and they were going to arrest me. And I met my daughter's father, and to another girl that was in the group home. And then I decided to hook up with my daughter's father, and I started to go back and forth till I end up getting pregnant, and he didn't want the child, and he locked me out of the house because his sister told him I drank up all his soda, and it was just some foolishness. And I was out in the cold and pregnant. Then he started hitting me. He beat me so bad. That man beat me so bad. Oh my goodness. And then I went back to the group home, but in all this, you think these things is love. In
Yeah.
all this, you think somebody loves you when they beat you.
Because that's what you're used to seeing.
That's what I'm used to seeing, and I never knew that I was gonna get beaten. I mean, I saw my dad do it, but I didn't know it was gonna happen to me. You know?
Did you ever say to yourself, I'm never going to let this happen to me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. A lot of women say that and they end up.
And end up, yeah. I've
Yeah.
said it. I'm not gonna let this happen to me.